Our fourth C is the C called content. Now we actually look at the content itself of the scripture. We look at the content that makes up the particular passage. When you come to terms with the passage, remember that there were no verses or chapter numbers. Verses and chapter numbers were added to the scripture only during the time when it was made into a printed book. And so don't get confused by chapter numbers. Don't get confused by verse numbers, because those things were there only so that we could easily reference the particular passage. So when you're looking at the content, don't look at the content by virtue of which verse things are and where verses stop or verses begin, or even where chapters start or chapters end. Don't look at those things. Look rather at the content within the particular story. And what we need to see is to look deeper within it. What we've done is we've looked at the circumstance, the external context. We've looked at the context itself, the internal context, in saying how does this fit within the whole of the scripture, but also within this particular passage and this particular chapter. Then what we said was we need to apply criticism. We need to apply questions to the passage, saying, what is this? What is the passage about? How has this passage come to be there? Who was the audience? Who was the writer? Who was the connections within it? And now we go one step further back down, and we're getting to the content itself. And so it's in the content itself that we do things like analysis. We do word analysis. We look at the themes that run through the story. We look at the themes of the people, the characters, the ideas. Maybe if it's Paul, you're starting to map out the particular argument that he's trying to make within his letters. And often his letters are about argument. He's got a point that he's trying to make. He's got a question that he's trying to answer. And maybe part of the idea of looking at content is to say, well, what is it, the question that he's trying to answer? What is the question that they are trying to give us some impact into? And it's that process of looking at content which is so important then. The content. What is there? What's strange about the passage? What would you find unexpected in the passage? And remember that the gospel writers will seldom give you information that you don't need. They didn't write like that. They didn't write with a lot of superfluous information. In fact, the information that they give you is important to know. And so when they give you a number, when they give you a person's name, when they give you an environment, when they give you something that happens, don't just take that as, well, that's just obvious. Rather see that those things are little clues throughout the passage in terms of its content to help you to interpret it. And so there we have the interpretive concept of using the content itself. My encouragement to you is to spend some time with the content, is to spend enough time with the content so that you can almost know the passage off by heart. And when that happens, what begins to happen for you is that as you think through the passage, so the content begins to become clearer and clearer, and you begin to see the things in it that you may have missed the first time. You know, the problem with too much information is that sometimes we can have information overload. But what I want to encourage you to do is to have all that raw material around you, but then to focus on text. And when you focus on text that way, that's how you can begin to draw out then the particular content, the particular things that want to be of connection to you. That content are the things that can then help you in the process of interpreting the passage in its context, in its environment. Because only once you have that real sense of what the context meant then, can you begin to apply it to what it might mean now.